Hello again, Florida Southern Moccasins. And wow, we're starting on week 5. Okay, this is week 5 of our 7-week course. And we're going to delve ever more deeply into esports digital marketing and consumer engagement. So let me begin the presentation for this week. And so what are we going to be covering? We're going to continue our quest that you understand the breadth of esports media and reporting. And I think the key word there is going to be breadth, because I'm going to introduce you to a variety of other sites, primarily entities such as Reddit, subreddit, things like Newsvine, Purporters, Dig, Quarter, Hacker News, but primarily Discord. Discord's going to be a big one that we're talking about today, so that you're able to comprehend the difference between international sports media companies like InVen Korea, InVen Global, the Esports Observer Berlin, and other media companies like SBJ, Sports Business Journal, Esports Insider, etc. You're going to need to recognize how a site such as Reddit operates as a news aggregation site. And that's an important phrase, because what we're looking at are basically news aggregation sites. And the other differentiator is in the next bullet point, how these news aggregators harness user-generated content. You're already familiar with user-generated content because that's what chat is. However, chat is just like the tip of the iceberg when we're talking about UGC, user-generated content. You'll understand the international demographics of news aggregator sites and identify the investment dollars that have gone into these companies and a valuation methodology. And you'll grasp the consumer engagement methodology used by sites such as Reddit, which is one of the reasons we're really going to go in depth into Reddit for reasons that are going to become obvious as we do so. So the topics, again, Reddit and familiar sites. We're going to look at how Reddit uses an upvote and a downvote and the dynamic of karma points. Okay, I mean, I grew up with a bumper sticker that said, "My karma ran over your dogma." We'll talk about Reddit Premium versus Reddit Gold, how this all impacts internet privacy, neutrality, and anonymity. I'll talk about the company that I'm very familiar with. We invested in it, InVen Global. We'll look at other sites and take it from there, okay? So again, this week we're looking at here the streaming and the social aspects of esports digital marketing and consumer engagement, okay? Once again, to review generations, okay? The greatest generation, they're going, okay? In fact, my surrogate father died this year. He was 99 years old. He was a World War II POW of the Japanese, a B-29, flew in B-29s and all. They're gone. The silent generation was basically kind of like my parents. I'm a baby boomer. Generation X might be your parents, more than likely your parents. Millennials could be your older siblings or maybe some of your parents, and Gen Z. When we're talking about user-generated content and like who contributes to all this, this is the group we're looking at, okay? And it's because statistics show us that Gen Zers are drawn to the user-driven nature of communities. And this opens up a whole question about trustworthiness of advice from peers, who you look to for information. So if we take a look at this slide, the percentage of Gen Zers who describe each platform as user-driven. Now notice they don't describe Instagram all that much as user-driven. And that's because a lot of Instagram, frankly, could be my generation, baby boomers, could be Generation X, also a lot of brands. Snapchat, very similar. Notice those are very heavy on taking photos, some videos, and posting them. Facebook, only 38% of Gen Zers view it as user-driven, and that's understandable because, let's face it, you've got whole corporations, you've got whole industries that have their own Facebook page. When we get to Twitter, it gets better, or X as we call it now, right? 44%. But of all of these sites, Reddit was the one that Gen Zers described as the most user-driven, and that by 51%. And we're going to go into that in greater depth, okay? Now, a little bit of history. All of this began with what were called bulletin board systems, okay? A bulletin board system, or BBS, also in the old days they were called computer bulletin board services. It's a computer server that runs a software that allows users to connect to the system using a terminal program. Terminal program simply means it's like picking up a phone, right? There's a direct connection. Now, bulletin board services were generally text-based rather than GUI-based, right? There were very few graphic user interface-based bulletin boards in the early years. And they conversed simply using ASCII, which was American Standard Code for Information Interchange. That's what it meant. I say it's ASCII, but I call it 2. So bulletin board services with multiple phone lines essentially provided chat rooms, and they allowed users to interact with each other. A good beginning, a good foundation, but one that was ripe for development as technology improved. And so you can see here in 1979, we're looking at classic bulletin board services. It gets a little better in the mid-'80s, which is basically when I got my first computer at Carnegie Mellon. 202 gets even more improved. By 2020, the world as you know it today is what exists, okay? And the key element here, the key differentiator from the world, and in terms of social marketing and consumer engagement, is in fact the ability of users to generate content that is shared online and viewed by the multitudes. So let's delve into that, okay? It's so important that you can get online and you can look at 2023 state of social and user-generated content, which is basically a data analytics site that scrolls through, spiders through all this social and user-generated content to find themes, to find memes, to find all set of data that is able to be categorized and compartmentalized. All right, we don't have time for all that, so we're going to delve into fundamentals of what is user-generated content. In marketing, user-generated content refers to content related to your brand that's created by someone who's not an official representative of your business. That's very important. Now, this user-generated content can be in the form of a social media update. It could be a review. It could be a video, a podcast, or a number of any other types. You know, I recently, last year, published a fictional novel called Running at Hialeah, and it's on Amazon. For any of you that might be interested, it's not scholarly. It's actually extremely humorous. But what am I living or dying by? Besides the number of copies sold, it's the reviews. And the reviews that appear on Amazon are user-generated reviews. Now, truth be known, do I know? I think I got 15 reviews, all of them 5-star, 1 4-star, and I might know half of those people. So you could say that half of them were kind, you know, or half of them were not exactly unsolicited, but the other half were indeed from people I don't know who they are. Again, historically, the British Broadcasting Corporation adopted a user-generated content platform for its websites way back in 2005. So the Brits were like ahead of us. And it's significant that in 2006, Time Magazine named you as the person of the year. You might be familiar with Time Magazine having this long-running thing, you know, the person of the year. Well, in 2006, they clearly broadened that by saying it was you, because this was the advent of user-generated content. And in fact, in 2006, it referred to the rise in the production of UGC on Web 2.0 platforms. That's just a little bit of history, of which I always think is important to know. So, writ large, though, user-generated content is the term used to describe any type of content on websites that allows users to interact with other users on the site. So it's not just one way. They're not just providing commentary and content in response to whatever is being promoted, whatever is being sold, whatever is being said, but it is also to entice and to share and solicit from others additional feedback. Like if this was a live class, it would be a professor's dream if all 14 of you in the class were actively engaged, discussing with each other, which you're kind of doing on the discussion forum. But this is happening on a global network. So UGC includes photos as well as video sharing. And each one of those has a particular value when it comes to the news aggregation sites that we're going to be talking about. It's social network live feeds. And you could very well say that the chat that you find on a esports on Twitch is a social network live feed. There are also, of course, blogs. There are surveys. There are forums. There are podcasts, mobile uploads, personal pages, if that personal page is also soliciting open feedback, games, chats, and contests. Okay, so you can see there's a wide variety of content we're talking about. In fact, what's not even on here are vlogs, right? Video logs, okay? So, types of user-generated content, again, content from social media, reviews and testimonials. Don just talking about the reviews his book got, blog posts, but we expanded even further those hashtag campaigns, which Twitter made very famous, right? A case study, a survey, interactive events with customers. And, you could almost say home shopping network is a variety of that. Video content, including live streaming and augmented reality lenses and filters, Q&A forums, reviews, and this is fascinating, over 70% of consumers say they look at product reviews before making a purchase. Now, my wife is a baby boomer. She looks at product reviews before making a purchase. She just bought a brand new mattress, and let me tell you, she read every review that was out there comparing. Video content. Video is a really effective way to create UGC irrespective of your content. And we're going to see how important video is. Then there's gamification. Gamification is a fascinating term. It was actually coined by a colleague of mine named Jesse Shell, who runs Shell Games. I hired him. He was a Disney Imagineer. And Randy Pouch, my rest in peace, my late colleague at the Entertainment Technology Center, turned me on to him. So I basically made Jesse an offer he couldn't refuse. And the irony of gamification is that he meant it as a derogatory term, that we were gamifying everything. But the flip side of that was that was very appealing, okay? For example, in my other class that I teach at Arizona State, we use a system called Yellow Dig in lieu of the existing discussion forum that we're using here. And Yellow Dig is discussion gamification. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is the students are allotted every week of the semester 1,000 points. They are there to get 1,000 points. And they acquire those points by posting responses to the question that I ask, by responding to the posts that other students provide. And if they do so with regularity and with some pith to them, in other words, word count and all that, they can acquire the 1,000 points needed, or they can get extra credit and go up to 1,350 points. The idea being, at the end of the semester, to acquire 15,000 points. Because if you don't acquire 15,000 points, it's basically telling me that you did not participate in the discussion to the degree that you should have, okay? So that's a fascinating, aspect of gamification as it relates to, education that at first I was suspicious of and now I love, okay? And then, of course, we've got holiday themes that are very big. And I don't know where you are right now, but it might be August 28th or 29th, but it's, as far as retail is concerned, it's Halloween, okay? No comment, okay? Now, we already said user-generated content is consumer-created photos, et cetera, et cetera. Why is it so popular? For the most part, it is relevant. 86% feel that UGC is an indicator of quality, which I think is a wonderful statement about the trust that the millennials and Gen Zs have in each other's judgment, okay? I applaud that, okay? The other thing is it sticks, meaning that 35% find that user-generated content is more memorable than other types of media. And that's probably because it's more relevant and more authentic. But the largest users of UGC are millennials, okay? They create 70% of user-generated content. Now, I'm going to guesstimate that Gen Zers are infringing or taking a bigger percentage there, but I like to group millennials and Gen Zs together, especially for this course on digital marketing and consumer engagement, okay? Now, where does this interest, this relevancy come from? There are types of social proof. There's the proof you get from your friends, okay? Do you trust what your friends are saying about something? This is very applicable about restaurants. It's about fashion. It's about dating sites. It's about saloons and what have you. Then there's the commentary of experts, right? And there's a lot of obfuscation between experts and celebrities. Of course, an influencer is a celebrity, all right? So you've got that dynamic. Then there are certifications. And increasingly, we're finding that there are certifications that mean that this particular individual has done such due diligence and R&D in a particular topic that they are qualified by external certification to comment. Then there's the customers, the individuals that are able to say, I bought one of these, I flew on this airline, I went on this cruise, I've gone to this restaurant. And so the customer reviews, of course, are a form of social proof. If you're like me, though, the problem is for every restaurant where there's a negative review, there's a positive review. If there's a positive review, there's a negative review. And of course, there's the issue of how many of those are truly customers, how many of them are plants, or as I said once before, in the theater we had what were called clacks. And clacks were people who were hired to applaud. And then there's the general presumption of the wisdom of the crowd. You could almost say that's the belief in democracy, except if Don has any wisdom for you, I would say be suspicious of this, because crowds can turn into mobs. Okay, that's the editorial that I will leave. Okay, now this is a fascinating slide. Okay, the authenticity and efficacy of externally created content. Now this is 2023. The state of social and user-generated content, which is that site I told you about before. So in general, all types of content can play a role in influencing the market funnel by driving awareness, interest, and consideration for a brand or product. The new challenge is selecting the best piece of external content to drive specific outcomes. Because you can have awareness and you can have consideration, but this is only as powerful as it leads to conversion. Okay, conversion, the purchase of the product or the service, which is positive enough to result in loyalty, and such loyalty that that particular customer becomes an advocate. right? Promoting advocacy of that product or cause. And so if we see here on this sliding scale, authentic user-generated content is the most valued, okay, has the greatest input. And that has very much to do with who are the creators. But then when we start to get brand content, right, content that's coming from the brand, we get a little bit more suspicious. Influencers, while they do have power and influence, they are paid by the brand. So there's some suspicion there. And then if it's clearly staged user-generated content, it really loses its value. It's perceived, but it's not perceived as true customer-created content. Okay? Now, I know I'm getting a little redundant here. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Created by consumers, that's 60% are view that as most authentic. 20% by brands, 6% stock imagery. This is the important thing here. User-generated content is 5 times more likely to bring in a conversion than branded content. Let's go back here, all right? User-generated content is 5 times more likely to bring in a conversion than branded content. So you, as chief marketing officers, what's your response? Well, in response to this, your brand has to start placing even more of an emphasis on its social presence and user-generated content in order to successfully influence customers to connect with your brand and become a repeat customer. Now, what's the key and what's going to differentiate you as a CMO is how are you going to do this? Okay? How are you going to identify user-generated content that is positive towards your brand and towards your service and promote that? Because remember, part of the things we talked about earlier was the need for a brand to identify those individuals that are, in fact, its biggest fans, its biggest advocates, and come up with some way, some form of compensation, whether that's an attaboy, whether that's a product, whether that's a gift card, whether that's you know what, to continue to promote because they believe in it. Okay. Now, social media is a fascinating dynamic, okay? It's the most commonly used news source among U.S. respondents that consume the news daily. Now, this is despite the fact that Americans turn to social media for news, even though there is lower trust in it. However, social media gets rated more highly than network news, gets rated more highly than cable news networks. And think about that. Why is that the case? Because cable news is usually 24/7, which means we've got to drum up the news, okay? When I was growing up, I'm going to sound like grandpa now, the evening news was 15 minutes. Huntley, Brinkley, Walter Cronkite. It was black and white, 15 minutes, and it was just the facts. And now what's the problem and why we have lower trust? It's opinion. It's opinion, okay? So the fascinating thing, as this chart shows, is that even though there's high usage of a particular site, that doesn't necessarily equate to a strong perception of trustworthiness. In other words, you're suspicious, pardon me, of everything, and rightfully so. One thing I did find fascinating was that radio was considered the most reliable source, even though it is listened to by a much smaller proportion. But compare that to social media, which has a higher usage, but half the share of people that trusted it. This is from Anna Fleck, who, by the way, works for Statista. And this is February 16, 2023. Okay. Now, benefits of UGC. We've already talked about them. Get back. Okay. It encourages more engagement with its users. And it doubles the likeliness that the content will be shared, because sharing content online is the digital version of word of mouth. If you are taking a marketing class of any type, you know that even to this day, although I think it's changing, there's nothing more powerful than word of mouth, okay? However, word of mouth is really becoming digital, and that becomes sharing, okay? Sharing opinions, sharing the commentary, sharing reviews, etc. So a majority of consumers trust UGC over brand-provided information. Therefore, it can allow for better brand-consumer relationships. The other thing about UGC, and this is important, it provides search engine optimization value for brands, because search engine optimization is the heart of Google. So search engine optimization means more traffic is driven to the brand's website, therefore more content is linked back to the website. Okay, because remember, once again, what does Google do? Google searches and finds out, where do consumers go when they have a question? And if they go to this particular site, the presumption is it's viewed as most trustworthy, hence it's got a higher ranking in terms of search engine optimization. Now, this reassures purchase decisions, which will keep customers shopping, because with UGC, the conversion rate increases by as much as 4.6%. Now, that might not seem like much, but it's significant. And it increases follower count on various social media platforms. This helps integration with traditional marketing and promotional techniques, which in turn drive more conversions for the companies. Why is this important? It's simple. This increases profit with a significant reduction in costs for the company. A significant reduction in what costs? Advertising costs. It typically is low-cost promotion, since content is driven by free for the firm's customers. So think about that. User-generated content replaces the dollars that you have to spend to promote your product. Now, it may very well be the case that if you have a brand new product, you do need to blanket the social media as well as traditional media to get out there. That's why we have the Super Bowl, right? That's why we're charging millions of dollars for a 30-second or a 1-minute ad, so that there's a huge blast out there. But then we are relying on the user-generated content and consumer traffic to keep the campaign alive. Now, let's talk about Reddit. I've mentioned the firm news aggregation sites, user-generated content aggregation sites. There's none better than Reddit. So what is Reddit? Technically, Reddit is a social sharing website. It is built around users who are submitting text, images, and videos, and here's the key, which others can vote on. Okay, we want to talk about democracy. Well, you might know that we have elections, every 4 years or every 2 years, and then you get to vote, and now you get to question whether that vote is even being counted. Here, there's no question about it. You vote immediately. You vote up or you vote down. Now, popular content, what is popular content? Popular content has got a lot of up votes. So popular content rises to the top, while content that is downvoted, i.e. less popular, becomes less noticeable. Now, there's Reddit, but then there's also this brilliant division of Reddit. These are smaller communities that are called subreddits. A subreddit is a board dedicated to a certain topic. And each one begins with reddit.com/r, and then we have the particular topic, such as reddit.com/r/marketing. So that is a community dedicated to discussing marketing. Okay. Now with Reddit, you get 3 forms of engagement. We've already talked about them. There's upvotes and downvotes, but there's also clicks and comments. Now, that being said, different types of content can generate various results. For example, a title that asks a question is more likely to produce 2 times more comments than a title that's phrased as a statement. Now, let's go back to this whole democratization dynamic, right? Democratization of dynamic, and literally the Greek understanding of the polis, P-O-L-I-S, which is the town, the community coming together to discuss and debate particular topics. All of a sudden, Reddit is doing that, okay? Who uses Reddit? Americans, right? Americans by far use Reddit, which I think is a true testimony to this country and to the Gen Z and the millennials who keep asking questions. Keep asking questions. On the other hand, it's also providing a forum where one's particular bias or one's particular prejudice can become reinforced. Okay? Again, my goal here is to teach you how to think, not teach you what to think. Okay? I never liked it people telling me what to think. I always thought I had a brain to figure out how I should think. And I'm still learning at 70 years of age. And you'll notice Australia's next, but it pales. Then there's India, Philippines, to onward, okay? Now, Reddit traffic share by device 2023. So this is current, okay? Now, by looking at this chart, okay, you can quickly understand where a website's traffic comes from and what devices visitors prefer to use. So on reddit.com, desktops drive 25.7% of visits. However, mobile devices drive 74.3% of traffic. Now that's pretty significant because the mobile is obviously with you all the time. And it's something that you can, now it also means that your response can be immediate. It could be impromptu. It could trigger your bias or what have you. But it's important to look at the devices that are used, okay? So when we add, obviously, desktop and mobile, we end up with, in the last 6 months, 4.58 billion responses, content going to Reddit. Significant. How significant? Reddit is the 6th most popular website in the US. Okay, not the 6th most popular gaming site, not the 6th most popular social media site, the 6th most popular website. It was founded in 2005 and has grown astronomically, okay? Now, according to Alexa, now Alexa is an Amazon-owned subsidiary, as we know. Okay, it's the 6th most popular. It gets more than 46.7 million daily searches. Now, this is fascinating because you might not think to use Reddit as a search engine, but each day there are more than 46.7 million searches each day on a variety of subjects. Now, this 33.44% of Redditors love to use mobile technology. We've already shown that's low, okay? And we've already seen that while this says 44% of Reddit's monthly active users access it through a mobile app or browser, it's more than that. But what's most important is that 51% of Gen Zs love Reddit because it's user-driven. Okay, let's continue. Okay, now, we said that Reddit is a social network where registered members can vote content and discuss them, made up of millions of collective niche forums or groups called subreddits. Niche forum is also a good term. To put it differently, Reddit is a social platform comprised of subreddits. Again, subreddit is a micro community based on a certain topic, but rest assured, there's a subreddit for everything. For example, you got the usual topics that are covered with like crafts, something made, or art crafts. Now, how many Reddit communities are there? Well, there are more than 138,000 active subreddit communities. What are the most popular? Okay, funny, right? Most popular subreddits, right? 19.9 million users who need a joke, who need to laugh. Second comes Ask Reddit, those with a question. Today I learned. World news, okay, talking about Gen Z getting its information and news from aggregation sites. Science, pictures, gaming, I am movies and videos, okay? Reddit is where tech enthusiasts gather. There are a lot of nerds on Reddit, okay? Visitors who are passionate about consumer technology, there are more of them on Reddit than on YouTube, Twitter, or anything else, okay? Why is this important? Because tech enthusiasts on Reddit, they put their money where their interests lie. In other words, electronic purchases based on referring platform, Reddit wins, okay? Now, YouTube and Twitter are not far behind, but Reddit is the big winner, okay? Now, I mentioned Reddit Karma. Let's take a look at that. When you're logged into Reddit, you'll be able to upvote and downvote items to help determine their rank. You get 1 vote per item, but you can change it after it's logged. Try doing that when you vote in an election, right? Now, the number appearing between the up and down arrows is the submissions score. The score is calculated as the number of upvotes minus the number of downvotes. This leads to Reddit uses karma as a way of showing the best possible content to users. So karma increases the number of points a post has, while negative karma decreases that number. So upvoted comments and posts with a ton of points end up at the top of the page, which leads to even more people seeing and upvoting them. This is what we're talking about, okay? Notice this question is asked on Ask Reddit. What is no right to be as difficult as it is? Well, 44.8 thousand more gave it an upvote to whatever the answer was than a downvote. Here we have a statement because it's on a subreddit of Apple. Those who are fascinated with, with Apple technology and hardware. Fortnite has been removed from the App Store after they implemented direct payments. 36.1 thousand, okay? Here we have the subreddit of League of Legends. Team Solomid, TSM, versus Golden Guardians, LCS 2020 Summer Playoff, Winners Bracket Round 1 post-match discussion, 10.3 thousand. So you can see here how important it is to vote and how the value of the vote is in fact calculated. So 42% of internet users aged 18 to 24, i.e. you, use Reddit. Now, in a study from We Are Flint, they found that 42% are using Reddit. I just said that, Don. This shows that Reddit is becoming popular with this age group, and it's only going to continue to grow in the coming years. I'm going to put a little caveat on that, because as you get older, I'm going to say and fear that your patience for some of the dumb comments that appear may very well start wearing on you, and you might be a little less inclined to Reddit. But that's just Don, the psychologist, talking, okay? Now, before there was Twitter, there was character designations on Reddit. Reddit always said that the top post, the smartest way to post, is by using under 120 characters. And before you post to Reddit, you have the option of adding a title. So with all the subreddits the Foundation marketing team analyzed, it was found that posts with titles of 60 to 80 characters generated more upvotes, whereas titles with more than 120 characters or shorter than 20 characters performed the poorest. So take a look at this chart here, headline character count, and in terms of the average upvotes, you can see what we're talking about here. Now, your job as a CXO is to figure out what's going on here. Is it attention deficit disorder? Is it the fact that the millennial and Gen Z mindset is such that they are able to extract and acquire data faster and more meaningfully than before? And so it's like, give me the facts, ma'am. Give me, what exactly do you want from me or are asking of me so I can respond? And if it's too short, maybe there's the presumption of bias there. I'm going to leave it to you because your job is to figure this out. Okay. One thing that is certain is that posts with questions receive the most comments. Okay. We talked about upvotes, clicks, and comments. There are different types of content generating various results. Okay. For example, a title that asks a question, again, is more likely to produce 2 times more comments than a title that's phrased as a statement. Okay. Was the post asking a question in subreddit? The yes. Okay. And that's what we like because that is inviting my commentary. Now, posts without questions can receive more upvotes. Now, content shared on Reddit that does not ask a question usually receives more than 1,000 upvotes over content that includes a question. Because unless it is a rhetorical question, it's probably asking for your opinion. And the opinion can be positive, the opinion can be negative. However, if you are posting a statement, okay, if you're posting a statement, you are for the most part asking for positive reinforcement, hence more upvotes. Now, external links are the most popular type of content. These are links that drive the most engagement for Reddit. Why is that the case? That's the case because users rely on Reddit to discover new brands, new websites, new tools, and content related to their interests. Like I happen to love trains. Right? I love trains and railroads. There's a subreddit on Reddit for that. And I love when I'm suddenly alerted to, say, a tourist railroad that I didn't know existed before, or someone who's got what's called private varnish. Private varnish is a private railroad car who may be selling it because in my old age insanity, I keep thinking I want a private railroad car. It's never going to happen, but it's a good fantasy, okay? Now, upvotes give users the opportunity to filter through the noise and browse through a feed of quality content. However, the popular posts with links produced over 16,000 more upvotes than the popular text posts. That really is, when I was growing up, there was a commercial that always ended with inquiring minds want to know. Well, the Reddit user is for the most part an inquiring mind, and they want to know. And by providing external links, that's a way of saying, here's something more for you to know, okay? Videos are the most upvoted external links. So while links are popular on the platform, it should be noted that not all external content is produced equally. What do we mean by that? Well, a post can link to a website, right? A post can link to a photo sharing site or a video sharing site. But videos on average create the most upvotes, followed by photos. And you start to see here where it's a bit of an infringement on Instagram, on Snapchat, etc. Thus, the top photo and video posts created over 10,000 more upvotes than links to websites. Okay, now, this is an interesting subreddit. The subreddit Data is Beautiful is a changing landscape, okay? This is a fascinating one. It's one of our favorite subreddits. Why? Because it is dedicated to data visualization and information that is made into graphics and animations. Again, data analytics, fine. How are you going to display that? How are you going to display that nugget of wisdom or that nugget of knowledge that has been discovered through data analytics in a way that your proposed audience is able to understand, devour, and utilize? So this particular chart shows the content that users are likely to engage within the subreddits when it comes to terms found in the original content. In other words, the most popular Data is Beautiful is looking at anything that involves the United States. The number of, okay, it's visualizing whatever the number of that you're addressing. Over time, OC over time, in the US, the population distribution in Google searches for, I created my weight loss, Data is Beautiful. That's going to be a lot of before and afters. The US, again, over time, okay. My heart rate, these are for the hypochondriacs there, something that Don would not ever do, all right? And this is frequency with high engagement ratio. So you can see how this particular subreddit is extremely valuable and becoming of greater usage for government, for law firms, for you name it, okay? We talked about this. That's redundant, okay? If you have is the most popular headline phrases in the subreddit Life Hacks, okay? Life Hacks. Users in the subreddit Life Hacks are determined to find shortcuts that make day-to-day life simpler. Now, this diagram shows the most popular phrases from the headlines in the subreddit Life Hacks and illustrates what kind of life hacks users are the most curious about. I love this one. If you have, okay, if you have what, I want to know what to do with it. How to make, oh yeah, I need that. How to get rid of, okay, this is primarily a cosmetic one, right? You can use, how to prevent, if you don't have to make sure, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see here where Reddit is really addressing every aspect of life, okay? And again, Reddit loves sharing links. Now here's types of links, data based on 400 entries. What types of links are being shared? In this one, this is about life and motivation, life pro tips you should know. Websites are the largest one, which considering the subject makes sense. Image makes sense. Video, not so much. However, types of links for movie and music, okay, movies, TV, hip hop heads, music, you'll notice website is still big, but image is secondary to video. So all of this data, which is visualized for you, is out there, okay? This is so important that there are, in fact, websites so that you can learn how to market on Reddit, a guide for businesses. This is socialmediaexaminer.com. So again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It is out there. Once you have a fundamental understanding of Reddit, you can then go to a site like this to help promote your brand, okay? Now, I do need to talk about Reddit Premium versus Reddit Gold. The switch from Reddit Gold to Reddit Premium sparked grumbling in subreddit Theory of Reddit, with users accusing the platform of corporate greed and saying the new award names are dripping with hello fellow kids level tackiness. Now, whether you agree with these opinions or not, Reddit Premium is here to stay. Now, here's how Reddit Premium is different from Reddit Gold of the olden days. First of all, don't be surprised. It's 1.5 times more expensive. But what does more expensive mean? The monthly subscription cost has gone from $3.99 to $5.99. In other words, just get a cafe latte rather than one of those frappuccinos at Starbucks. You can't pay per year anymore. In other words, there's no discount. So there's no yearly subscription option for premium. You pay every month. Now that can come in handy if you decide to cancel after a few months, right? In return, you get coins every month. Start to see the virtual currency that we encountered in Twitch and in Facebook, okay, YouTube. Previously, credits was Reddit, was what was used. But Reddit coins are a virtual currency where you can buy awards with. The premium membership gives you a monthly allowance of coins. So what do you use with the coins? You do gilding, right? This is, even though gilding here means like putting gold on something. It's gilded with gold or gilded with silver. So gilding became awarding, right? Gilding was what it used to be, all right? The award system is a little more complex than gilding used to be and has 3 tiers: silver, gold, and platinum. So we retain something from the gilding dynamic. Gold gives the person you awarded 1 week of premium membership, while platinum gives them premium for 1 month. Silver doesn't give any premium benefits and is basically a way to super upvote someone. So you can see here how Reddit has tapped into the virtual currency dynamic. Here's an example of Reddit coins. All right, $1.99, you can get 500. Give 1 gold or 5 silver awards. $3.99, you get 1,100, et cetera, et cetera. You can see how it is being marketed, and it's doing tier marketing. Okay, tier marketing. Okay, now, since we're talking about esports, we've got to talk about Discord. Got to talk about Discord. Since launching in 2015, Discord has become one of the top places for video game players to gather and communicate online, and it is exploding. Discord counts more than 140 million monthly active users, which is up from 56 million at the end of 2019. Now, the company also has 19 million weekly active servers. Now, what's a server on Discord? A server is a community that contains multiple chat, voice, and video channels. Now, Discord offers some advanced features that makes these communities more akin to online communities than simple chat rooms. These include real-time audio and video conversations, custom emoji, and custom roles that distinguish users. Now, even though Discord has typically been associated with online gamers, just like in Twitch, there's a growing number of users who are building Discord communities that are focused on other interests. Do you see Twitch Redux here? Twitch Redux, right? Just chatting. So among Discord users, 70% still say they use the app for gaming and some other purposes. That was up from 30% in early 2020. In other words, up from the 30% that said they use it for chat, for gaming, and other purposes. Now, what are these non-gaming servers? What are these non-gaming communities? They include those focused on TV shows, geographical regions, sports, memes, dating, of course, and investing. How successful? Discord generated $130 million in revenue in 2020. Now, that was according to the Wall Street Journal, which represent a 188% increase year on year. Now, where does this money come from? Almost all of Discord's revenue comes from Nitro. Nitro is Discord's premium enhancement bundle. Discord has over 140 million active monthly users and 300 million registered accounts. So much so that in 2021, it was valued at $7 billion, which was doubling its value in under a year. So the reason it's become so popular is that it brings in the best of both worlds. with servers that allow you to chat and voice channels to speak to each other in real time. So gaming communities and friends are ditching Skype and TeamSpeak and moving into Discord because it is frankly safer and is much better integrated. Here's an example of Discord Nitro. Again, this is where the money is coming from. Discord Nitro is a paid membership. It comes with global access to custom emojis from all the servers you are part of. It also comes with Nitro stickers, a custom Discord number tag, animated avatars, server enhancements, and it costs $9.99 a month, or such a deal, $99.99 a year. So obviously it is enticing you to buy a year because it gives you an enhanced Discord experience for one low monthly cost or a value over a year. And notice, upgrade your emoji, enjoy bigger file uploads, stand out in your favorite Discords, and more. So it's basically allowing the user to become a customized user with your own emoji, okay? Now, Twitch is not stupid. Twitch sees what's going on here. And Twitch and Discord both realize we can either fight it out among each other or we can join forces. And so now Discord is available on Twitch, all right? Very smart, okay? But I need to talk about failure because we learn about failure, okay? Vote is an example of failure. Now, it originally hosted aggregated content and discussion forums similar to Reddit, okay? Well, like Reddit, Vote was a collection of entries submitted by registered users to themed categories. They were called subverses. They were very similar to the bulletin board system we talked about earlier. Now, unlike Reddit, Vote emphasized looser content restrictions and ad revenue sharing programs. And that's where it fell apart. So Vote became described by media outlets as Quartz, the New York Times, the New Yorker, as an alt-right hub. Because of the looser content restrictions, it opened itself up for acrimonious commentary. The site was also widely described as being a clone of Reddit, but what really doomed it was when it was dubbed the alt-right Reddit. So much so that in December, Christmas Day 2020, it shut down. So the takeaway from this is you've got to have content restrictions. And more than that, you've got to be actively watching what's going on here, okay? Now, another site I want to bring to your attention is one that I happen to like, Quora. Quora is a web app where one member can ask a question and the other members can respond. Now, what this means is that any question can get several answers from different members, showing their unique experiences and knowledge. Fortunately or unfortunately, that is not really becoming the case as more and more experts get involved. Now, in August of 21, Quora began allowing contributors to monetize their content. How so? Well, the platform launched a subscription service called Quora Plus, which allows subscribers to pay a $5 monthly fee or $50 annual subscription. Notice this as well as Nitro, pay for 10 months, get 12 months on us, all right? So this fee allows you to access content that any creator chooses to put behind a paywall. Now, Yahoo Answers is also one of the most popular Quora alternatives. There's also Fluther, another often cited alternative to Quora. And its signature feature is that it has two main parts, general and social. There's also one called Stack Exchange. I'm presenting these only because I said we were going to talk about news and user-generated aggregation sites. In terms of esports, these are not big with esports. Periodically, a question will be asked about esports on Quora, and very often I'm the person who's responding, okay? So this is an example of Quora. If the Titanic had never hit the iceberg, what would the rest of its ocean-going career have been like? How long a life is likely to have? Well, what they say is we'll take a look at Titanic's sister ship, the Royal Mail ship Olympic, okay? So you can see this, but you can also see, we can talk about the future, storytelling, novels, outer space, the Baseball Hall of Fame, Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars, MLB. I get a lot of that too. Okay, enough of that. Now, I told you about policing, okay? Reddit bots. Reddit has created its own bots that are hunting down bad commentary, okay? And Reddit has also built browser extensions that help them identify suspicious users. Now, this is pretty damn cool, right? I can't close this session without talking about social media and you. Right? Social media and you. Because when I say social media and you, I mean when you go for a job, all right? When you want to be hired by a firm, and you'll see what the firm does with your social media. 48% of candidates believe their social media presence is important or very important to potential employers. Yes, that should be higher. 35% of employers formally evaluate candidates' social media profiles or are considering it. And frankly, in the same way that Reddit has got bots that are designed to search out acrimonious commentary and suspicious users, more and more employers are going to have bots that do that for your social media. Bet on it. 39% of hiring managers say that questionable content or behavior is the #1 thing they look for. So I feel like as your father or grandfather, I need to put this out there, okay? Now, other sites that you need to consider is one of the classic ones, SBJ, Sports Business Journal. And the fact that Sports Business Journal has expanded into esports by virtue of its acquisition of the Esports Observer out of Berlin, Germany, should have convinced NCAA that, hey, get into this. But they did not, okay? So what you have now is, if you subscribe to Sports Business Journal, esports, the news you're getting is primarily that from the Esports Observer, plus additional commentary. I've got to talk about our site, Invent Global, because Invent Global is the English language version of Invent Korea, which is the #1 esports media site in Korea. Invent Global has taken a turn to the point where it's primarily the English translation of what content that appears on Invent Korea. And the content on Invent Korea focuses a great deal on the individual team members, the individual players, the individual streamers, as well as over 70 sites focused on individual specific games and franchises. Okay. Lastly, ladies, get involved, okay? Notice the 2021 Esports Investment Summit, which we presented, was improving the inclusivity and profitability of esports. And we invited some of the top women who were involved in esports. And the fact of the matter is, it's an incredible profit potential to increase the number of women that are involved in esports. And so, I mean, if there's anything that, whack-a-mole here that Don's going to keep hammering on, it's precisely that. Okay, gang, thanks for another intense week. I hope I didn't give you too much, but remember, the great thing is you can stop, go back, review anytime you want. So thank you. I look forward to your work again. I've been impressed with what you've turned out, and let's keep it going.